day to everyone watching. Welcome to this edition of Trends. Today we have
Yep.
yet another trending topic, and I'm not alone as usual. My name is PJ. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
I have with me, if you do not know the update, Nakali is not a married man.
I can't lie. I
Yes,
can't lie.
thank
What
you,
can I
thank you. So
say?
good. How's your
Thank you.
wife?
Thank you. My wife is good. Lewa O sends her greeting. Now Lewa N.
Now Lewa N. Yes, Lewa N. So welcome Nakale. And we
Thank you.
have a
Thank you.
special co-host with us today. Her name is Ife
Yep.
Olua. She's joining us
Fairs
for
in
the
the
first
building.
time, but she's here to also share her perspectives and thoughts on this hot topic that we are spotlighting today.
Yep.
And today we're looking into the life of unsung heroes.
Yes.
Pastor's wife and pastor's kids alike, and we're drawing reference from the very latest edition of Stories by AFL that was put out over the course of this weekend. This particular one has stirred up a lot of conversation, different perspectives, different thoughts, and we want to really just do a bit of dissecting into the life and the
Subject
dynamics.
matter.
Yes,
Yeah.
the subject matter, the dynamics of, being a pastor's wife, a pastor's child, or, just that responsibility and assignment that being close or serving alongside
Yes.
a pastor comes with.
Comes with.
Nakali, what are your thoughts when you saw this story?
Well, okay, so first things first, I'm not a pastor's kid, so or of course I'm not a pastor,
Well, you're a
right?
pastor.
But well, I am a pastor now. So looking back in retrospect, I had friends who were pastors' kids. In fact, just a little background, we were the first set of the Kingdom Heritage School, which is the school owned by Living Faith. So a lot of my classmates were children of clergy because it was one of the schemes that were set up to ensure that there's no to take off the load of school fees of the backs of staff and then even pastors generally. So I went to school with a lot of pastors' kids, and I would say that I have discovered that it is largely a function of number one, understanding, and then even personalities, because
Yeah.
we had all kinds. We had the ones that you don't envy them at all. You look at their life and you don't envy, but there were some of them that I wish I was like, my father too for me pastor, right? Because it looked glamorous. So I feel like it has a lot to do with individual specificities, right? Either the level of exposure, what they were doing even before coming to ministry,
Ministry.
the ideologies they have, their personalities,
Yeah.
personality traits, and all of those things. So when these stories was aired and I went through it, I watched. I was touched with some of the things that she had to go through, and a lot of people could resonate with this. When going through the comment section, you could see that a lot of people had something to say, either being a pastor's kid,
Yeah.
or being a pastor's
Pastor's
wife,
wife.
or even being a pastor who can relate to what his wife goes through. I think at this juncture we need to give it up for pastors and their families,
Yeah.
because it's true that they are unsung heroes. Many a times, at best, if any gets any form of recommendation, commendation, or applause, it is usually the pastor. Because
Many
of course,
times,
many times,
many
that's
times.
if they even get to. If the people will even honor anybody, many times it's the pastor, because he's the one that is in their faces. He's the one that they feel is making all the sacrifices. He's the one that they feel, and rightly so. We're not discrediting that, but you see, there are people behind the scenes that have to bear the brunt of some of those sacrifices, and I feel that that's what some of the things we're going to touch on. But before we get into that,
Before we get to that.
let me ask Ife what she thinks about this topic,
Yeah.
and how
Just
it
wanted
how
to
it
leave
resonates with you.
backgrounds.
I think it's an interesting topic actually. When I saw it, it resonated with me because my mom is a minister.
Oh,
So
amazing.
I could relate with the things she talked about, like the way she felt, the expectations, like just generally the lifestyle surrounding the clergy, what
Yeah.
goes on in the family
Yeah.
that people don't get to see. So I could really relate with what she said.
What
I
she said.
experienced how she felt. So I think it's a really good topic.
Yeah.
There was something
yes.
even mentioned that I want us to be like another phase of this conversation about expectations.
Expectations.
Pastors' wives are
That's a whole
held
conversation.
Yes,
It's a
they're
whole
held to
conversation.
so high, like the standards are so high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The children cannot afford to make. They cannot allow to be children.
Exactly.
And over the years, there's been a subtle, turnout that sometimes when you say a pastor's kid, there's a remark that people make about them when they see them not maybe live to that standard or expectation that society has
That
placed.
they had placed over them.
Very unrealistic, because at the end of the day, particularly when they are just kids, they are children. Like, allow children be children. Children.
But I also believe, sorry for cutting, I also believe that
Yeah.
there should be a balance to it.
Okay.
It's not all wrong. In a moment of time, we'll play one of the excerpts, then we'll get into the conversation. But because I just feel like there's just need for balance, because we should not
How?
throw away every. For example, there is a demeanor that is unbecoming of kings, right? That's one of the most powerful statements I've heard in my life, in the sense that there is that comes with, there's a sophistication that comes with certain positions and privileges.
That's like,
No. And I'm saying, like I said, it's balance that is needed, not necessarily training all the way, because. And when we get into all the conversations, we'll talk about this. So, but in a moment of time, we're just going to hand over to the media to play one of those excerpts, and then we'll be back, and then we'll dissect all of these things, from the expectations down to the the things that they get to struggle with on a daily basis. So stay tight, don't touch that dial. If you have someone that ought to be on this live, please do well to invite them, share the link on your status and wherever you are, your social media platforms. I'll be back in a jiffy.
So I'm going to talk as my journey has a former pastor's wife.
You are a former pastor's wife.
Yes, sir.
Is the pastor still a pastor?
Yes, sir.
That statement means that you're not together anymore.
Yes, sir. We married as he was a bro, not a pastor. Then we traveled out of the country. But eventually, by the time I was returning home, he was a full-fledged pastor, heading his zone at that time. So when I came back home, and I had to conform to a particular shape or a particular way a pastor's wife has to be. Like, there's an image that the church people want the pastor's wife to look at that is different from who you are. Then there is a part of a responsibility that wants to be laid on you as being a pastor's wife that you are not even ready for, or you don't even want to. You have to dress in a particular way. You have to associate with a particular set of people. And some set of people, you have to carry yourself in such a way so that you don't look like you are bringing yourself low. So there are some people that when you associate with them, it's like, don't you know you're a pastor's wife? You shouldn't be
associating with those people.
Yeah. These were people that I knew when I was young. Those are friendships that I've had for a long time. My being a pastor's wife, those don't have to
take
now
away your
make
humanity.
Some of these expectations were even unrealistic for me, because at that time we just relocated back home to Nigeria and my children were younger. And I like to be a career person. I like the ministry. I like to serve God. I've always served God. And I'm passionate about people. I like to take care of other people. But it got to a stage where the need of the church people was put above
the need at home.
And the funniest thing is, I like to smile a lot. I will still appear in church smiling. And sometimes I might have just cried. It's as bad as sometimes there might not be food in the house.
Are you serious?
Yes. When somebody just neglects that part that you are going to be all right. And when there is no food, I've always bring out things that I would do to make sure there is food.
Yes.
Up until I will sell pap. Try to do everything I can lay my hands on to get by, because I discovered that if we have to talk about money, it becomes an issue. I grew up seeing my mom depending on my stepdad for a lot financially. And in my mind as a girl, I'd vow that I would never get to a point where I would depend. So from a very young age, I did things and I studied.
Yeah.
So now coming back to marriage, you can't walk. You just came back. The children are small, so you need to take care of the children. I think that was what broke me the more.
You were stopped from working?
Yes.
Why?
The children were small, they're little, so I have to not work. It's like I'm now saying that So if I don't work, what I went through as a child is going to come back to my children. I studied while I was in school.
Yes.
I did 8 years in college. So by the time I graduated, I was a chartered accountant.
Yes.
So I put all the work in. Do you understand what it's like?
To build your career.
Like when you see your friends in college,
Yes.
go out to play.
Yes.
You go to study.
Yes.
And when the reason why you're doing it is supposed to be that I can say, oh yes, I can reap the fruits of my labor.
Yes.
Now, because of marriage,
Yes.
because of raising children, because of that, I won't do anything. So for me, it's a mental torture.
Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. So a few talking points, right, PJ? I
Lots
think,
of
and
talking points actually.
and I think,
Not a few.
yes, I think I like the fact that she highlighted one of the things I mentioned earlier, which was the dilemma of, expectations as per courage in comparison
You're not
with
seen
you
in a
being
certain
yourself.
way, in a
Yes.
certain light.
So and the truth of it is, okay, we talked about one of the many struggles that pastors' wife have to go through on a daily basis and all that. And one of the major things that I pointed is that pressure to be perfect, right? Everybody believes that if you're a pastor's kid or you're a pastor's wife, you should be the embodiment of everything that the pastor preaches.
Because people are looking up to
People
you.
are looking up to you.
Spotless.
Your life is the validation for what the pastor is preaching.
Exactly.
So if pastor is preaching on meekness and calmness and all that, and then the wife is hot-headed, and which ought not to be, of course, but the wife is that they believe that this man is not even preaching the right thing. So where do we now draw the line? Ideally, it should be right, but if we want to now critically look at these people's life, they are also human beings. We are putting undue pressure that we don't put on ourselves because we excuse ourselves. I'm just a regular church goer, right? But then we expect these other people to not fall short of it. Rightly so. Nobody should fall short of it. Even us, we ought not to fall short of it. But then why is it that the pressure is much? So from my own standpoint, I honestly feel like what is needed is a balance. Because I believe, as a pastor, that statement that I mentioned earlier for me is one of the most powerful statements I've heard in my life, that there is a demeanor that is unbecoming of kings. In other words, there is a way a king must not carry himself. There are places a king must not be found. There are things a king must not be found doing. Right? It's just like imagine the president of your nation, you see him on the streets eating corn and just saying he wants to be free. Well, even though that is politics, that can happen. They do that every 4 years. But what I'm saying is, nobody would like to just find their pastor walking on the street with bathroom slippers, just being himself, being a regular human being. As much as he's being human, even you, something your mom will be like, what's pastor doing this thing? Now, pastor, compose, package. You like it when... So, I have a question to that effect. Are we the ones that have created this unrealistic standard of perfection for both the clergy and the pew? For the clergy especially, are we the ones that created that level of expectations for them? Or who created these expectations?
Okay. I think it's actually 50-50. It's expected, like you said. I think in Timothy, Paul was like, there are certain lifestyle that is expected. If a man is to be a bishop, he has to have control over his house. So as a person, you have to have certain expectations. Yeah, there are certain things that you have to do because you belong to this family. You are in the front. People are looking up to you. So your message, they want to see that you are not just telling us to do something you are not doing. We want to see your family doing. But at the same time, it shouldn't be extreme.
Yeah.
These people are also humans. They have their emotions. They have their way of expressions. God did not create us as a clone. We are not robots that has to be we don't have emotions.
Yeah.
So there has to be a balance. There are certain things that are expected, but we shouldn't take it to the extent where they have to now kill their personality, their individuality to conform to a certain image.
True.
That's what I think.
True. PJ?
Okay, so permit me to just differ on some things. Because before we even took the video, there was a certain illustration you were painting. And I really do feel that in the place of esteeming our office, right? Esteeming a leader or a pastor should esteem his office, should uphold his place of honor. Really believe that at the end of the day, there is a certain kind of judgment that comes from people that is not of God.
Definitely.
So that illustration you painted, right? You can maybe see a vulnerable moment of your pastor, right? Or even maybe it's unintended. There are people who must never see that side of them.
Yes.
Whether it might not even be bad or whatever. I'm saying the most tiniest slip up of a pastor's kid will go viral.
True that.
And it is so inhumane that some people would always intentionally look out. I mean, in this same body of Christ, there are some ministers and pastors that have married that when they were blessed with the fruits of the womb and then they had children, people were literally counting months.
Yes.
Trying to see. I mean, people are demonic.
Yeah. Just trying to poke and say, Pastor, you are not as good as.
There was a certain minister, they said it was exactly 9 months after. Are we sure that they were not touching? Why? I mean, this woman's story, she said something in that snippet that at the end there were times where she could not do certain things, right? I'm sure maybe from their agreement, whatever it is that she had with her husband at that time, her then husband. But I'm saying that are there people who will look at them, see their sacrifice, see that they didn't have enough, and will look away and still judge them?
There.
Yes.
There. So I think the thing is this, right? I agree. First of all, I want to categorically say that I agree that there is an unreasonable judgment and a reasonable expectation that is on the family of the pastorate. First, the pastor, but his own, so everybody knows that one. But it now shifts to the pastor's family, the wife and the children. It's an unrealistic expectation. There's this pedestal where they have been placed, and we expect perfection from them, and we fail to cut them slack and fail to give them mercy, extend the mercy that they extend, the kind of mercy that pastors extend to their members on a daily basis.
They don't receive
the
it.
Pastors cannot receive a quarter of it. I mean, even in the scriptures, when the children of Israel were misbehaving, there was a Moses to pray for them. The one time Moses messed up, nobody to intercede for him. That's one of the cross. That's one of the burdens that comes with leadership. One of the pains. I said something to a friend one time. I said, you must learn to guide your ordinariness. Protect your ordinary. Not everybody is equipped to handle your ordinariness.
Yeah.
You see, this is a truth. As much as you want to be human, you want to be, just be you. You want to just do life. The truth of it is if you're going far and you want to make as much impact as you want to make, you still need to guide your ordinariness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's okay that once in a while your vulnerability shows up. You're a human. You can always cut some slack. But if you want to be a high flyer and want to act like everybody else, for example, if you are my pastor's wife, I should not be comfortable coming into the church and seeing you sweep. That might be your consecration with God, and God has said, be sweeping. But honor has taught me that I should not let you sweep when I'm there. So I will fight and say, why are you sweeping, ma? Please allow me do that. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have unrealistic expectations. It's just that there are certain things that I've learned to not, you should not be, I can't be, you're my pastor or you're my pastor, and I come around and I'm seeing you fetching bucket of water. I should say, let me help out. Just because I was trained to do so. It might not be popular in every part of the world, but in this part of the world where we come from, we are trained people, right? We respect and honor our elders. We help out. So it's natural. But what we are against is the unrealistic expectations. For example, you don't expect that a child of a pastor will feel the emotions that a normal person feels. You just feel like because a pastor is a pastor's child, she should not have a crush. Because he's a pastor's child, he should not be tempted by the opposite sex. Because the pastor's child, he should not be tempted to lie or steal. The same temptation, even the Bible says, the Bible describes Jesus and said there is no temptation that we have felt that he is not private to, but yet without sin. So if Jesus was tempted, even pastor's daughter will be tempted. So I feel like we need to cut that slack. We need to cut them that slack and know that they are humans, honestly.
So about pastor's kids, and I just want to say, particularly when they are just growing, they are toddlers and they need all the guidance possible. They always say it takes a village to raise a child. One of the things that I really grew up resenting about, the good side, like you mentioned, that, you just always admire, right, about being a pastor's child. But that comparison thing, I don't think we've addressed it enough.
Comparison.
Yeah. It's really, really, and then you'll find out that a number, don't let me say that, a number of pastors' children fall into depression, anxiety.
I was almost going to be depressed. Let me share a personal story with you guys. So, how many of us remember these guys, Destiny Kids, joy. This comparison is serious. So, while growing up, I believe Gen Zs have exited the WhatsApp group chat because they won't relate. But those of us that remember Destiny Kids, that's their name now. Destiny Kids, yes. They sang joy. I am a radical boy. It was not easy or not that because it was simple. Not be your mates, they do this thing. And this not your mates. So I just felt like, what am I doing with my life? First of all, I was not even saved, my brother. I was not saved now because I just knew that I was coming to church. In fact,
do you understand
this church I was attending at the time, we used to have services. Each service, we had several services in a Sunday. Each service at the max was an hour 30 minutes. And it's only one service used to come from. That 1 hour 30 minutes used to feel like 10 hours. I'll be like, let it end already. Can I? Because somehow I had not found God for myself. I was just being taken to church, forced to church. You can't say no, right, and all that. But it was a good foundation, even though I didn't understand. Now I'm grateful that I was put through that. But you see, over time, I began to grow resentment toward those guys. Because I just felt like, are they better than me? Why are you the ones my mom is comparing me with? And before you know, I disconnected from what they were doing because I was pained that I was being compared. I'm sure my parents were not doing with wrong intentions. In their mind, ginger them, look at your mates, inspire them. But the way it was done was, not be your mate, they sing this thing. Not be your mate, they dance for church. In fact, they didn't used to pick me for, what they call that thing, calisthenics. When they are to come and dance, you got the whole world. Your head, they just pick me because I used to always forget lines. So you can imagine the pressure was much. I'm just saying that comparison for anybody can be terrible, let alone a pastor's kid. Take for example, there are like 4 pastors, and each of them are pastors. They are friends, right? Family friends. They are all pastors, and this pastor's kid is going to this university and is one of the best students, whereas this one has interest in something that is not churchy. It's not wrong, but it's not churchy. Take for example the fine arts, maybe music, maybe painting, maybe whatever it is, maybe even robotics and stuff, but it's not churchy. And they're making you look like, why can't you be like this person? One of the other things that pastors' wives face and struggle with is identity crisis.
Yes.
Many pastors' wives fail to find themselves outside of what the man represents. Of course, Destiny's up. Yes. Destiny,
a pastor's wife,
and that's
they
it.
don't know themselves.
I was listening to AFL speak one day, and he said something powerful. How that he had spoke to God. He had told God that the woman he wants to marry, he wants that her relevance will not have to be only when it is tied to him, that her relevance shows that this person in herself will be relevant with or without. If you say this person as an individual, she's relevant, without having to say, that should be this part wife. That should not be a soft line to say, okay, if not wife, let's, it should be so much so that as a person, this person has enough stands and relevance. So identity crisis is one of the things. And one thing about identity crisis is that no matter how old you are, no matter how much money you have, the moment you still suffer identity crisis, you will never have a sense of fulfillment.
Yes.
And when you listen to her story, that was what she battled with.
Yeah.
Because there was this emptiness. She sort of wanted to be something more, but there was no platform to express that. And because there is much more to us than we know, there's much more to us than we know. Many a times we live our lives to the maybe medium expressions. We don't get to express the full thing, and a lot of pastors' wives find themselves in this situation.
It's very. You must fight for your identity.
Yes.
Like, it must be a voracious fight. It must be an intentional, deliberate thing that you are doing as a woman.
Yes.
Because there will be no safe space for a woman that is already boxed in that way.
Yes. And I think we need to be clear that this has nothing to do with feminism and anything. This is just, it's a no-brainer. Many a times, you've heard, even I've heard even AFL talk about this a number of times, how that the pain that comes with seeing women being pegged because the entirety of their life is shrouded in who they marry.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like, okay, well, its purpose ought to align and all that, but the relationship ought not to be a parasitic relationship that one has to die for the other to benefit. It ought to be symbiotic. Everybody is, the whole body is being nourished by what each part is jointly. So everybody's complementing everybody. You would know that this is it when the woman's visions and dreams are not dying because she has to fulfill the man's visions and dreams. It should be that in helping the man fulfilling his own visions and dreams, she is being fulfilled because God had created that she is the helpmate. So that's a major, major problem. I read somewhere, I can't remember, somebody was trying to make a point about, women generally and the whole struggle for that women are being subjugated and suppressed and all that in society, and was trying to make a case for feminism and all that. And I said it one time, I said feminism as it ought to be, it should not be a bad thing. Feminism as it ought to be, the real sense of it.
It's been hijacked
because feminism as it ought to be, it ought to be the empowerment of the female gender. That's simple. Empowering the female gender to be able to stand and do the things that they can do.
Yeah.
So, but what feminism has become now is a subtle demasculinization of the male gender. So it used to be like the male gender was here. Let me stay here. The male gender was here. The female gender was here. In order to bring the male gender and the female gender, like to give equal level playing ground in the workplace and all that, what we now did was to now bring the male gender down. It ought not to be so. It ought to be this rising.
Yes.
So usually they are now demasculinized. That's why we have an epidemic of lack of men.
Yeah.
I don't know why we are diverting, but let me just say this.
I feel it's all interconnected.
Yes,
actually.
I was on. Was it on Twitter or I think it was on Twitter. I was on Twitter one of these days, and I don't know how I stumbled upon a page. I think the person had once trolled AFL about coming to church. He mentioned that coming to church and all that. And Apostle was speaking about homosexuality and the likes and all that. And the person got offended and felt like, why will he be speaking against homosexuality? Openly and tweeted about it. On Twitter. And even tagged, how you at the person so that everybody will know. And once you are atted, you shall see, and all of that. And the person did that. So I said, let me even check this person out. My God, that was one of the worst decisions that I could have made. And I went to that person's page. And this person is a full-blown homosexual. And then, of course, you see their community, the people that they are reposting and all that. And it just occurred to me that this community has spread.
It has.
And everything, I don't want to talk too much. This thing, everything is interconnected, like you said. Mm-hmm. The first point of attack that the devil comes to attack is the family system. Yeah. And the moment there's a breakdown of these things, we don't have solid men that can raise solid men in their kind. Now we have
gaps and voids.
Because there's
getting wider.
There's this agitation. I don't know the English. Demasculinize. let's make the men less of what they are, right? And in doing so, what you're doing is that you're creating a vacuum. There's a scarcity of real men in society, and as such, what you'll be replicating will be weak and beggarly men that are not even sure if they are men anymore. Men that want to be women.
This direction and this conversation is taking. I want us to address something. Maybe I'll have Ife take it.
Yeah.
And we also share our thoughts. Could this be the reason why, as a man, if you're married to a woman, she automatically becomes pastor's wife? In this full interview, this woman said that, there is a demarcation. Just because you marry a pastor's wife does not automatically make you one. However, you have that tag.
Yes.
The office is automatically created. And I even also remember that one of the wives of the past president of the United States mentioned that she wished there was an handbook. The president gets a guideline, he gets policy guides and all. That for the president's wife, there's none. There's just get thrown into it and you start finding your way around the whole thing. Sure. We wish there is there's a handbook. But in a place where, like you mentioned, thank God for the gift of AFL. That a man would insist that no, you will not, mommy lies my wife. No, my wife has her own call. No. Is it possible that this void that has started to widen is the reason why we're still having all of these conversations till today? Because if the man can arise and redirect. Oh no, there are some pastors in the body today who have totally rewritten narratives about certain they've you cannot even go close to them and have an expectation because they have boundaries that they have set. What do you think about, even the men themselves now also helping. To curb all this expectation?
I was going to say something to that effect when he was talking, because as much as it is people putting the pressure on the pastors, the wife, and the children, the pastor also put a certain level of pressure.
True.
They appear perfect. Maybe so that people will not see them as not fit for this. So they try to appear perfect. They expect their children to perform a certain way, even if they are living different at home. Just pretend. When you are out, pretend that you are this person, pretend that you are like this. So I think if we can have more people that will stand, be real, and say, this is my wife, this is who we had, this is who she is, even though she's a pastor's wife, this is pastor kids, like we still have our own individual personality, we have expression, and then generally in the body of Christ we should just be honest. Like, we like to pretend too much. Like
true. Very true.
Like the person you are not,
don't claim to be.
Don't claim to be. Like, we are all a work in progress. God saved us. You don't get perfect immediately you accept Christ. It's a work in progress. That's why we have the Holy Spirit in us to correct us, to bring us to a level of perfection before it comes. So you don't have to conform yourself to this. That's where I will commend my mom a lot. I talked about because my mom she has a good relationship with her children. And when we were growing up, my brothers, I was very young then because there's age gap, but my brothers had places they had in the church. Like my elder brother, like youth pastor, and then the eldest one also had one portfolio that is handling. But she's very protective. Like, she's a real mother hen. We lost our dad quite early. So she's a mother hen. You can't put expectations on her children. There was a church we were going to that time, and they I don't want to, like, they had a certain way that they live. Like, the pastor can just
you can say it now. You're not mentioning it, please.
Okay, like a pastor can beat children. Beat like elderly people.
Wait, sorry. You say what? Like
beat,
little
like
kids, it will beat little children.
I don't know about
church.
Little children, but elderly people, like teenagers, he has koboko. So he will discipline them, and that is because the parents submitted their children to the pastor that's trained them. But my mom is like, no, that can I think my mom is we are the only one in that church, I might be wrong, that the pastor never raised his hand against. No, you can't do that to our children. And at the same time, she will not condone you doing the right thing. It's not as if she's cuddling us, she's pampering us. It's just that she knows what is right, and she will not allow you to, like, force our children to be what they are not. So I think if the pastors and all of them, like, they can be real, be vulnerable, and set standard like Apostle did. This is my wife, don't expect. I remember I think during Apostle's proposal, where Mama knelt down and Pastor Mimi knelt down, and someone made a comment like, this is how you should be, and Apostle dropped a comment like, no, don't make this a standard. This is a personal thing that she decided to do. So we should stop generalizing ourselves. We are individual person. There might be, and saying this, like, I think you mentioned it, there are actual people that love the pastors, like, they love the paparazzi, like having coming in and flowing in different. They love that.
What do they call that?
the hat.
The hat. There's a name for it. Is it revolver? I forgot what it's called.
They love that. They love entering with different possession following them. So let them enjoy that flow. And for others that want a more, like, calm lifestyle, let me be this person. This is who I am. Let them also be who
I think what you said is so profound. The hypocrisy that has happened, or that has found expression within the church walls for the longest time, is sponsored by the inhumanity, or the attempt to be more professional than human as churches, or as pastors, or as clergy generally. So you would see a pastor carry himself like he doesn't use the toilet, just because the people too would not honor him
If
he
does not
looks
carry
too
himself in a
normal.
certain way.
So you see, everybody, Pure and the Pulpit, contributed to all of us. We are now packaging for each other, and it's that hypocrisy that has. And I love what you said when you said how that it is if the man himself decides to set the standard. I believe that we need people that can stand up to say, see, if this thing is happening, this is not standard. This is probably personal desire or personal preference or prejudice or bias. So don't make this a standard. And as it stands, this person, you will not help me turn this person to an old woman. You know, there are certain things that we do in church circles that we have normalized, which it might not be wrong, but it has adverse effects. For example, when you begin to call a young person mama, it's not wrong. You know, there are circles that do that. I'm not saying it's wrong, but psychologically,
It
right? You want to
normalizes her.
mama, you want to
Mama
mama,
lie.
you want to
become
you want
a
to be
mama.
you are mama,
Mama
you are
lay.
mamacious. You become mamacious in what you do, right? And you know, it's funny
He's
and
doing
it's
more
true
harm than good,
because while we're on campus, PJ, when we're on campus, I was part of the campus
So there should be
fellowship.
papas.
I was one of the papas now.
20,
So
25-year-old
yeah.
papa.
So when they start calling you papa, I know the psychological effect. It takes one that really knows God to live there and be able to humble himself and go through process again. Many campus presidents or campus executives left campus and lost anything touch of ministry. Why? Because they couldn't reinvent the process.
It was just the office.
The office and the position that papa puts you in and mama puts you in.
Papa
You
lies.
can't bring yourself down now. You feel like everybody's your son. You just came out. You don't even know Jack. But anywhere you enter, you expect them to honor you as papa, because while you're on campus, you can't enter a gathering without them honoring papa and mama. You know?
To say something to what you said. When I was in school, I was made the Bible coordinator in my a very funny occurrence. So then I didn't wear trousers then, but when I go for night class, because it's late at night, there's mosquito and there's cold, so I'll put on trousers to go and read. So when they made me Bible coordinator, like, it's at night, it's a normal thing, and then I got called, like, you can't
Wear trousers.
yeah, you
You're a
can't
mama.
like, you can't
Mamas
wear it.
had
I'm
been
like,
looked up to.
what is I don't even wear it to class. I wear it to read. What are you saying? Like, no, you can't wear it to church. You have to, you can't wear it to class to read. You have to
Still wear skirt so that mosquito will finish you.
I was like, that's very funny. That's and that is even in the school
In the
level.
school, yes.
Now imagine that kind of, it gives a certain kind of mentality. Like, you start feeling better than the other person, like you have to portray yourself. So when you now, I think that is part of the other thing that affects people, that when they move out of school, maybe when they serve, and they struggle because they found their identity in the fact that everybody's buying to them. Like, so when you now come out, like, nobody sent you, nobody know you are, they not ready to, you are
Nobody sends you.
So you now have to struggle.
Do you know what it feels like to step into anywhere you step into, you get recognized? And now I have left. It's like politics in Nigeria.
You stripped.
It's like Nigerian politics. The
naked.
moment a past president leaves office, everybody has most of them we move. Nobody even recognizes. Nobody remembers them. People that will come visit you because they want to be on your good books, to get favors, get contracts. Nobody will remember you. So the hypocrisy is what even fuels that unhealthy expectation. It's back. The hypocrisy is fueling the unhealthy expectation. Is a circle, a vicious circle. Everything is fueling each other, and before you know, people are getting hurt. One other thing that pastors' wives struggle with is loneliness, because they don't get. There's nobody they can talk to. Especially in a case that's why accountability is so important. When there is no accountability structure, and you see, one thing with accountability is that accountability must be a safe place for you to be accountable. Safe place does not mean that you don't get consequences are cancelled. No, it just means that there must be a system that allows you to be at your most vulnerable without being as afraid. The reason why a lot of people are not accountable is because they don't know what will come after vulnerability. Somebody's thinking that I just messed up, but if I talk now, it will affect my generation.
Somebody's fate will be.
Yes, aside from even that, I might never get to achieve the things I can achieve if I cover this up. You get? If I come out and nobody knows, there are things I can achieve. But if I come out and say, I did this, so I know that I will be marked and cancelled out of this for life.
Kind.
And because they know that nobody will cut me any slack, pastors now have to pretend. And many times people are going through stuff, but they are too lonely to share with anybody. Sometimes it's not even that the person wants to have a double standard of life, but they need help, but there is nobody that they can help. That can help, rather, that can be trusted enough to help. Like I said, not everybody can wield your vulnerability, your ordinariness. It's like a prized possession that you must. So this issue of expectations between pastors' children, it's deep, PJ.
Now, okay, it's deep.
It's
For
deep.
me, I want to ask a question. So where is the safe space for them? Like you talked about accountability. I'm assuming that means having a system that you can always pour out to release your tension and all the things you're going through. But where is the safe space for a pastor's kid? Where is the safe space for a pastor's wife that is going through depression? What it's just a body, because where is their safe space?
So I think it all still boils down to like we said, accountability and structures and systems that aid people to be able to vent and not just be able to expunge. Okay, this is what I'm going through, and then be able to find grace,
a pastor's wife community.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why communities are important. The truth of it is
some
that
of those communities still have.
Well, there is, but I'm saying that
still shaky
as it ought to be. Not there's the ought is dichotomy. There's what ought to be, but then there's what is, right? So, but as it ought to be, one of the major systems or structures can help in this kind of situation is having a community of like-mindedness. And some certain ministries do this. They have pastors, children, fellowships, and I believe that the aim is to have a community of people that can be touched with your everyday struggles, your everyday maybe at some point, so the thing is, once something begins to get big, but when it's a small community, yes, when we have, let's say, cell units that you can be intimate, it can be true. There's no razzmatazz, there's no paparazzi. It's just real conversation with trusted people. No, there are actually good circles. There are real circles within the body of Christ that works, that gets the things done. There are circles that exist like that. So I think everybody needs to find a safe space, a circle and then also thank God for materials that can be read, because the truth of it is that we cannot outgrow. You are not more than what you know, right? Information, training, having those information will do you more good than harm. For example, there are people that have taught this path for 50, 30, 40 years. Have experience as a pastor's wife. They know what you would go through. They know what you will be or likely experience in the first year of ministry. Although even though times are changing, but they know what you will likely go through. The prejudices, the betrayals. So the moment you are mentally prepared, and that's why, just as it is, as AFL always say, you don't prepare in the battle, you prepare for the battle. Just as it is with any career, with any endeavor, there is need for adequate preparation prior. Now, in a case where the Holy Ghost happens with that, yes, you can prepare on the job, right? You equip yourself, you read books, and more importantly, we cannot downplay the help of the Holy Spirit, right? At the end of the day, is our comforter. We can put so many structures, so many psychological things.
Okay. What about therapy? What do you think about therapy?
I think that we don't talk about therapy a lot in this part of the world.
We underrate it.
In fact, we don't even. In fact, the moment you say therapy, you are suspecting that you think say I mad at me, because the moment someone says that you need to, yes,
talk to God.
I think it's even I don't say black thing, but it's an African thing. Even black Americans, the moment you mention therapy, they feel like you're saying go and see a shrink. It means you have you're becoming psycho and all that, but that is not necessarily so. These are people that have been trained. These are psychologists that understand human behavioral patterns. They know what will trigger what and how best to avoid these kind of things. So therapy is something that we should encourage it more. And thank God we have Christian therapists that merge both the spiritual and then blended with psychological prowess that can also help you become a rounded individual. So I feel like these are also things that we really, 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 really need to look into and talk about.
Yes. Please, if you have thoughts on this topic, you can do well to send your
big shout out to everyone who's connected.
Hi, Ezekiel.
Thank
Vico,
you,
yeah,
thank you,
how
thank
you
you, thank
doing?
you.
We'd like to read your thoughts on this topic. If you can relate in any form of way, please do share with us.
PJ,
and we'd like
there's
to
one
take
thing
it.
we have not talked about
Okay.
as one of the struggles that children, especially pastors' kids, go through is the parental absence. Let me say this.
That's
Let me say
real.
this.
That's real.
A lot of cases of abuse. A lot of, let me see. I don't have statistics like clear cut statistics, but based on things I've heard and
Stories
I know,
from people.
yeah, and things I've heard, right? A lot of pastors' children are exposed to one form of sexual violation
Abuse
or the other. A lot, and if you investigate it, it will be heartbreaking to see that these are the things they have. Why? Because the pastor's doors are wide open. He's a shepherd, so his doors are wide open. So he brings in both the wolf and the sheep into his house,
Their home is
and
everybody's home.
the children are not safe. Thank God for people that now are wise, puts up structures that helps and safeguards their children and all. Because with sexual predation, you cannot assume that anybody. You have to
Because
put up
it
the
even
structure
happens most times with
with
people
trusted
who are
people. Yes,
family,
now that's
supposedly.
statistically proven that every sexual offender is usually a trusted person, because the level of freedom it will take to be violated must come from a place of trust.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you
usually
can leave your children with
yes,
them.
it comes from trusted. So the absenteeism of the parent leads to things like sexual assault, leads to things like the effect. We see that naturally when a man is absent in a child's life, we see that there are repercussions. There are things that we see that happens. When a woman is absent in a child's life, we see the effect. We see the the repercussions of the absence of either of the parents, right? So imagine a structure that now takes both parents away, and both parents are not, sorry to say, not sorry to say this is in the Bible, right? God was angry with Eli, and one of the pain that God had with Eli was that Eli did not carry
Command
his
his
children.
home.
He did not command his
After the
after
ways
him.
of the Lord.
He commended Abraham. He said, I know Abraham, my servant. I know him. He said, I know him. He didn't have children then, but he said, I know him. He will command his household after me. God could recommend. It means that God is intentional with how we do parenting. So God was not really happy with, what's his name now, with Eli, simply because his children were sleeping with girls in the temple. They'll put
And he
hand
looked
the
away.
biggest meat.
Yes.
Sometimes I used to wish I was a priest that year.
Can you
It's only
imagine?
God that will save me from thunder that year, because
God is
I would have been eating meat.
revealing the thoughts of your heart.
I mean, what suya is? I've eaten suya before. My God. I know you're having express suya on a daily basis. So they will take the fattest, the one that God say, this is what I want. That's where their eye will be, and all of those things. And Eli was docile. He didn't say anything about it. He just, in fact, when God rebuked him, when God spoke to him about his children, he called them and said, see what you are doing. Is it good? There was no firm. He didn't hold them. God was not happy about that. It means that God is counting on every parent, whether you are clergy. Your first ministry is your family. It should not be said that in the process of attending to people outside and all that, your family is lacking. And there has been an unpleasant pattern over the years of preachers that shook the world having trouble in their backyard.
Yes.
And I think it calls for prayers, and I thank God that God is already changing that narrative. We see men that have walked this earth and have done tremendous things, and their children follow their footsteps. And we believe that more of this can happen, because parenting is very important.
Parenting is very important. And I also must say that when a man chooses to become a terror to the kingdom of darkness, opposition will arise. There will be yes, and then the home front that the Lord also plans to be the seed through which many things are bettered will also be the primary place of attack. So you find out that even for pastors' kids who eventually follow their father's footsteps and become ministers as well, they didn't exactly start off that way. We hear them share references, stories as how they were notorious.
Oh yes, I know
For
some of them.
example, me.
Confession
I
time.
wanted to be as far away
yes.
as
Run away.
Yes.
In fact, not
Because
run. I
it-
wanted to fly.
My
Are you
God.
serious?
I wanted to fly because I saw it as a restriction.
Yes.
I want to be this person.
Yes.
And because the way Christianity was portrayed then it
Yes.
looked like a bondage. Like I can't be this
my
person
God,
with
my God, my
this
God.
kind of mindset. I was like, I wanted to run away. Like
Especially
as
when
far.
the child is a creative. When you are a
Yeah.
creative
And then
and you grow up within a society that is dogmatized. Everything is processed. Creatives are wild and free people. So if they don't get that ventilation, and thank God for churches now that are embracing these dynamics into church, that we now have even creative circles within churches, that even young people now come to church and don't want to leave. I remember my church where I attended while I was much younger. Then if you come to church, I wouldn't want to leave. PG, I'm not joking, because they had done so much to create a system. So this is how it will be after service. It will be like service has not ended. Everybody is still seated. These ones are gisting. These ones are playing. Some are snapping. It can take maybe 2 hours for church to become empty, and service has closed like 2 hours before. And it's not that they're having long meeting. Is that there was this family. There was this all inclusiveness. Everybody felt, this is my community. They felt at home, and I think that it's very, very important, so that the next generation will not hate our God. But we must also not, in the process of doing that, shift the goalpost, because I think I see that that's another issue that we have to face. Because
Another
many times
extreme that is rising.
we do things and we bring in the world into church, and our excuse is that, this generation, they will not hear what we are saying until we bring what they know. How did they know that? Because that's not the reality. But if we are agreeing that, okay, this is their reality, let's make what is truth look like what they have. I think we are shifting the goalpost. We must be able to bring out something from God that is authentic. I'm telling you that real joy is in the presence of God. You can have real joy, real peace, real brotherhood, and know that these people's got my back. I think that's what is missing. People are too careful in churches now, and you have to be because
you still have to be. It's important that.
But we are trusting God for help.
Because many people are not really responding to treatment.
My sister, you proceed with caution. So I'll just highlight a few things that I feel like are maybe solutions, things that can help. One of them I wrote here. I said support systems. We spoke about it earlier. We spoke about having communities that can assist, having systems of accountability. These are support systems. Therapy, very important. And faith and spirituality. Like I said, the Holy Spirit at the end of the day is our primary comforter, and He can guide us through any difficult and give us the wisdom to navigate difficult situations. I also self-care. You see, the Bible says, "Love your neighbor as yourself." So there is a degree to which you must love yourself. It is that rate that God says you love your neighbor too. So it means that if you don't love yourself, you can't love your neighbor. And many times, a lot of people have failed in self-care. Self-care is not selfishness. Self-care is not self. It's not being self-absorbed. Self-care is knowing that you are also a precious gem, and God is counting on you to give yourself the best.
So you must refuel from where you pour.
Exactly. So even self-care also talks about consistent retreats. That's self-care. Self-care talks about dressing good, eating well, drinking water, being fine.
Minding your business.
Minding your business and being good, right? And then finally, I said communication. I believe that the truth of the matter is communication, or let me say the lack of communication. I read something somewhere, I don't know how true. I think they said World War II happened because two people could not say I am sorry.
World War II happens every time.
Yes, and it happened.
There's a variety of World War II happening right now. Somebody's house. Somebody's house.
Yes, it was the president of those nations that had disputes, and a simple, we apologize, or okay, let's say this. Communication would have ended it, but the whole world burned because people's ego were on the line. So openly communicating when you feel certain, and I feel like in parenting, Nigerian parents, this is for you. We must sustain let me just say ability, for a lack of a better word, the ability to have honest conversations and communications, and not trying to Nigerian parentalize our way around them. Nigerian parents
of the languages that we read in this show.
Yes, so it should be put. Do
not Nigerian
parentalize your children. Have they Nigerian parentalized you before?
Hey, Hey.
When they want to apologize, they'll be like, you don't eat.
Your food is in
You
the
go chop
kitchen.
meat. I talk to you now, I know go answer
Something
you.
for you.
Simple story.
Just say, I realized that what I did earlier was wrong. You were right. Even though I didn't like the way you spoke. Sorry about that.
Hey,
but don't
Nigerian
do-
parents.
Nigerian
Nigerian
parents.
parents.
Hell will freeze over.
But
Big shout out to our
no,
Nigerian parents. You know, but I think we should do better because we are entering the Gen Zs are not smiling. No, Gen Alpha.
Oh,
That one, let's never
those
talk about
ones
it.
are worse.
Yeah, I mean, they will ask you. You know, one day I was in the car with some I think those are Gen Alphas. Those boys, they wanted to stress my life. I was driving, and they were behind. And the guy kept putting on the light at the back. It was night. I was like, put it off. It's not like that. Why should I put it off? I said, put it off. You know, millennials,
Why?
our hands is scratching. Bro, put it off before I unleash the dragon. You know. So I was like, put it off. It's not like that. But why is he here if he's not supposed to put on? For the first time, I now thought that true. Why? But I couldn't say explain. I just say, oh, my friend, put it off. Right? So you see, we are
They
dealing with a
require
very logical
definitions and
definition.
explanations.
Exactly. You have to explain.
Also, to speak more on what from a personal
Yes.
experience part of it, like it's good to have relationship with your
Parents.
with your children.
Yes.
Because that's one of the things that helped me. As much as my mom is a firebrand woman, I could still talk to her. I remember when I had my first boyfriend then, which is very unusual for an African family.
Yes.
I could talk to her like then I thought I had seen my
Your husband.
So I was like,
Should we
"Can't
tell
pray
you?"
like pray about it, like I
Yeah.
like this guy. And also even when I was in institution, I was like, this person, I'm not dating him because he's going to be my husband. I just liked him.
Like him.
And so I could tell her she knows what is going on
Yeah.
in
That's
the
so
relationship.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So I don't have to hide
And
anything.
she didn't have to compromise her spirituality to be
Exactly.
that human to speak with her child.
So
so
it's
beautiful.
wonderful. One thing she did is she made us understand, like, have a relationship with God, like
Yes.
personal
Personal
relationship.
relationship.
Don't depend on my own faith. Like,
Yes.
know God for yourself, and also
Solid.
be open to. And one thing about my mom is when you talk to her, it's not that she's okay with it. She will go and pray about it
Yes,
and scatter
yes.
everything.
I know,
But
right?
at least
But
she will not-
before you feel you are still comfortable to come back again.
Exactly.
So her reactions are not closing the communication.
yeah. So
You know, there's a
you
way
the
somebody
wrong
can react and be like,
I'm not telling you
"She small what I tell
anything
you, now you react." Just forget, you're not
Just
hearing
forget.
anything again, you know?
Exactly. So if anybody that come, I can talk to her. This is what is happening.
Yeah.
And like I won't have to. When the wrong people came, like there's a place we lived and much older men were coming. I was a teenager then, so I could talk to her. And also with how close we are, she's also strict. It's not that she just
Yes,
allow
yes.
anything. I remember there was a time she just bought me my phone, and it was a very tender age then. Phone just came out, so it's unusual for a small
Yeah.
children, but she wanted to give us everything. So I won't
Everything.
have a reason
Yes,
to look out.
to look
So
out,
she
yeah.
bought a phone for me then, and I was using it. So there was this man in the area then, so he was like asking me out. I've not even given him answer. I did not like him like that though. The silly man now go and call me at midnight, not knowing the phone is with my mom. She did not say anything. She just picked it and put it in her hair.
Yeah.
And that man was pouring everything.
Hey, la coco, la qua, la soie, la liu
I
liu.
want to, and she knows this man. Like, he's a
She knows
much,
him.
I think you should
Please
be in
don't
his
break my heart
30s.
and tell me he was married.
No, he's not married.
Oh, okay.
But he should be in his maybe like late 20s.
Okay.
And I was maybe like 16
Yeah.
or 15. So I was very young. So she just picked the call. She did not say anything. And that man downloaded everything. Like, I love you. I want to see you, blah, blah, blah. She did not say anything. Just ended the call.
Ended the call.
The next thing I see is that she has seized my phone. She was like, who is this person? There's nothing going on. Like why did you give him your number? Why
Yeah.
would you? So she didn't give me my phone till I finished. I think till I finished that in school.
Wow.
So as much as she's lenient, she's also strict in
yes.
the areas that she needs
That she
to be
needed to
strict.
be strict.
So
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. So solid.
Balance.
I mean,
Balance. Special
I mean,
recognition for our parents in that same pattern and order. We love you.
Honestly, the truth is that it can be gotten right?
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
good part. There are people doing it right. People get parenting right. People get even their pastors' wives doing it right. It doesn't take away the fact that they go through struggles that might never be understood or never be said. It's part of the cross that they bear, and that's why it's good when you are prepared for it. And you know what? It's just like being a pastor and you are shocked that somebody betrayed you. Where
It's
Jesus
in the
told you,
curriculum.
or you're being a pastor and you're
It's in
shocked
the
that somebody does not
curriculum.
like you. Jesus said, in this world you have tribulations, right? He
Yeah.
said they did not like me, they hated me, they will hate you too. It said it clearly. So there are certain things that are starter packs, it comes with, it's part of the package, right? So the thing is that many people are not just equipped. It's almost as though the role catches them unawares. And I think that probably that was her case, because she probably never in her wildest imagination thought that she would find herself there. So, but somehow the know-how, and that's why before we wrap up now, I'd like to recommend 2 books.
Yes.
Even on that episode it was shown there. The first is let me get that, Behind the Pulpit by Pastor Miracle Femi Lazarus. I don't know if we have the book to put it up, okay, but we will probably get to have the book.
Just
share
how
in fact, you can download it on Seller. And also there is Dear Pastor's Wife, a memoir by May Ijisison. These 2 books, I can guarantee, I can recommend it any day, anytime. Just go on Seller, type Behind the Pulpit.
Handbook that I was never given.
It would set your life on course if you sense the call of God in that direction. Or let's say you're already a pastor's wife. These are the materials you need to feast on to now know that you are not alone. Whatever you are facing, people have faced it, and there is the wisdom to overcome it. And at this point, PJ,
final thoughts. I'll just say, please, people of God, extend grace.
extend grace.
Extend grace.
I mean,
yes, give room.
cut slack.
Give room for people's humanity, right? Whether pastor's wife or pastor's kid or not, give room for their. Just make allowance for people's inadequacies sometimes, because you are also not perfect.
True.
And for every pastor's wife out there, pastor's kid who might be going through struggles that they can't really share with anyone, just know that there is God for you to talk to, right? And He would definitely give you wisdom to really
grace.
go about your dealings, go about your ways, go about your your office as it is. God's wisdom is sufficient and is in abundance for you. So we're praying and sending you love and warm hugs from Trent.
Light and love.
Final
words.
Final words to just support what she said is be kind. And also be honest with yourself. We only have one life to live. That's one thing I'm particular about. I only have one life to live. I don't have a do again. So I have to live it in a way that, number one, I please God, and also I'm satisfied with it. Like I can be okay with myself. So that's important. Be honest with yourself and be kind. Be a place where people can come to you and they won't feel judged. Like and also be the you that you want to see. As much we are saying be kind, you too be kind. So if you are kind, it will spread. It will spread out.
So amazing, solid. And I would just say, to wrap up, that let's not become the reason why people become personalities and not persons. There's a way you meet a person and the person is not there, it's just the personality. How are you? God bless you. And we do that a lot in church. People are no longer persons, they are now personalities, and you can only fraternize you can only fraternize with that facade that they put out as the apostle or the prophet or the teacher. You can't know the human. Can we meet? So let's not become the reason why people lose their humanity. And like you said, extend grace. And dear pastors' wives, pastors' children, you are not alone. Truly, you are not alone. Jesus knows what it feels like. He might not be a pastor, but the Bible says there is no feeling. He's touched with all the feelings of our infirmity, and He knows. He's making intercessions for us, and we too are making intercessions for you, and it can only get better. You are loved. You are deeply appreciated. We cannot say thank you enough, but we can at least give you a round of applause for all our unsung heroes, the pastor's wife, the pastor's children. You might never get all the accolades you deserve, but your reward will be both here and then in heaven. We love you and we are praying for you. All right, that's the much you can take on today's
Trends. Come your way again.
Next time, do well to stay tuned. Bye.
Goodbye.